Well, we're into day two of the mining Indaba right here in Cape Town, South Africa. And on the back of Minister Susan Shabangus' address this morning, we're chatting now to Peter Leon, partner at Weber Wenzel. Thanks so much, Peter, for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Into day two, as I say, of the mining Indaba 2014. What's your sense of where sentiment is sitting amongst investors at the mining Indaba right now?
Well, there's a lot of concern in the South African context about the labour strikes in the platinum industry and how that's affecting the industry and perceptions around the South African mining industry generally. And then obviously you have the whole backdrop of potential decline in demand from China, given the leveraging of debt in China and the impact that could have on Chinese markets, import markets for South African raw materials. And then you have, uncertain situation in relation to commodities generally, whether they either are flat or declining. So it's a difficult environment at the moment, and the South African situation is particularly complex.
So we had Minister Susan Shabangus take to the podium this morning. What did you make of her address? Because listening, to conversations in the corridors straight after, and many people saying, well, it was a effective marketing campaign for South Africa's mining sector, and the minister basically stuck to script.
Yeah, look, she said all the right things. She made all the assurances that you need to hear about security of tenure, predictability, international best practice and all those things. The real problem is there is an issue with the amendment bill to the Mineral Petroleum Resources Development Act, which is currently before Parliament. The issues are really around the government's ability to control the export of strategic minerals, which the minister will be designating as strategic. If the mineral is designated as strategic, that mineral has to be supplied to local manufacturers at differentiated prices, which are effectively discounted prices, and the mineral producer will not be able to export those minerals without the Minister of Mineral Resources permission. That's an export licensing system. That does not make investors very happy because, if you run the risk, if you're developing a coal mine, you run the risk that your mineral is going to be declared strategic. Are you going to invest in this country? That really is the nub of the issue. The second issue is this, I think, is also a serious inroad into the property rights of mining companies, which the government has not answered, and it's also, in my view, a breach of the World Trade Organization agreement, of which we became a member in 1993.
So the reassurances that have come to the fore that this is not, in a bid to clamp down on exports, are really not or taking little effect. What the Act does do, though, is sees mining companies soon being able to apply for rights and begin construction in 300 days. So within a year, you can do business in the mining sector in South Africa. Is that good enough?
Well, no, that's a positive move. I mean, if that happens, the question is if it happens. At the moment, the Department of Mineral Resources is about out of time in about 80% of applications. Admittedly, they don't have this new system. The idea of having a joined up license for mining, for water and for environmental consents in 300 days, which is, probably 10 months, something in the order of that, is very positive. The question is it going to be implemented? One of the concerns I have there is that in the amendment bill, all the time limits which were previously written to the Act, and there weren't that many of them, have now been removed and they're going to be subject to regulation. So that is a concern. We have to see, what the government does in that space.
Sticking to the regulatory environment, we've seen the mining charter expiring this year. 26% black ownership level needs to be hit by April. What do you see being the implications for companies that don't hit that target?
Well, they're at risk of losing their license. That is an issue. But I have to say that security of tenure is an important feature of the Act itself. So the Department of Mineral Resources are aware of that. I also have the sense after this morning and listening to the minister and also at the media conference which took place afterwards, there is a greater rapprochement between the Department of Mineral Resources, the mining industry around the mining charter, because you might remember 4 or 5 years ago when the department conducted a review of the mining charter, there was a very hostile relationship with the industry as to whether or not the industry had complied with the percentages 5 years ago, which were then 15% moving to 26 over 10 years. I think that on that issue there is broad agreement. I think peace has broken out. And I'm not too concerned about that particular issue at the moment.
Do you see anything shaking the boat? For example, the fact that we could possibly look at that black ownership target being raised yet again?
Well, there was a threat of that with the Sims report. That was the ANC's investigation of the mining sector, which was discussed at the party's Mangaung conference. But that proposal of moving the 26% to 30%, which was in the Sims report, was not adopted by the African National Congress. So I don't have any sense that that's on the agenda.
Some commentary coming through from Weber Wenzel, unless South Africa can position itself as a good and promising place for investment forums like this, we've got forums possibly falling short of expectations. How are you rating that risk right now, given what's already played out at Mining Indaba 2014?
Well, it's a concern. I mean, the thing is, it's easy for the government to talk, it's easy for the minister to talk and make all the right noises. It's another thing to deliver. And the proof of the pudding, on the regulatory front is going to be in the amendments to the mining code, which are currently before Parliament. Do these issues around beneficiation and the licensing system, do they get addressed or do they get kicked into touch? What happens to them? We'll know the answer to that on the 19th of February when the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee votes on the amendment bill.
Let's leave it there. Peter, thanks so much for your time today. Peter Leon, of course, joining us at Mining Indaba 2014.